Hey everyone, Casual Gaming Dad here. Let's do it. I saw this video go up a bit, well, I guess it was a few hours ago now. I just got home, had some lunch, ready to sit down and see what we got. Looks like we got a 6-minute video. They're gonna be talking about Endgame, so that's important. That's important. Here we go. Inside the
I'm really
endgame.
excited about getting this game into players' hands and letting them experience this massive world.
A main cornerstone of D4 is play your way. As a player continues to advance through the story and into the endgame, they'll unlock a ton of brand new activities that provide meaningful progression, no matter their playstyle.
Players will be able to keep progressing in the narrative of the game. Alongside that, the whole team is working
Kaylee.
on a variety of different experiences players can pursue.
We're going to have an entire world of Sanctuary for our players to offer. There's going to never be an absence of something to do.
After the player has finished the campaign, there's a lot more game to go and participate in. They gain access to a special, what we call capstone dungeon that they have to complete. Once they're able to finish this capstone dungeon, they're going to gain access to the first world tier.
As you complete the world tier, it will open up the opportunity for you to go into your next world tier. That involves unlocking powerful loot, new items, and more advantages for your player to have a better opportunity at end game.
Whether you're a fan of dungeons, PvP, or just roaming around the world, there's a way to continue your Diablo adventure long after hitting max level.
This is
As your
important.
character continues to grow in power, you'll start with the skill tree and expand out into the Paragon system.
A lot of the choices the players make are grounded on skills themselves and the fantasies associated with those skills. Paragon board is a place where we're allowed to have a lot more depth, a lot more customization, many more options as you go.
You can rotate the board, so you can choose a different path if you're like, I want to do more strength-based things, or I want these particular boons or glyphs. You can chart your
Interesting.
path through it, and they're really a way for you to keep expanding your character and making it uniquely yours.
Similar to the Paragon boards is the Codex of Power. It's an in-game system that holds the aspects related to the character. You are able to complete a dungeon, and they will have a chance to drop an aspect that you can pick up.
And what this allows players to do is take items they're finding in the world and make them more powerful, turn them into legendary items.
It's really special to discover what kind of playstyle really means the most to you. Every part of Sanctuary is fulfilling and satisfying. Dungeons in particular are really close to my heart. Nightmare dungeons are going to give the players the opportunity to experience a dungeon that they might have already experienced in their past playthroughs. They'll enter the dungeon with a found sigil that alters the playstyle and the intensity of the dungeon.
They're more difficult and they have additional objectives, and then they also have affixes, which add a degree of difficulty for you and your group to work through.
One of my favorite affixes that you can find in Nightmare Dungeons is actually called Hellgate. Occasionally, these portals will open up throughout the area that will just pour out different monsters that aren't native to that region for you to also be dealing with while you're trying to handle everything else inside the dungeon. There's over 120 dungeons to play through and find in Diablo 4, and any one of them can become a Nightmare dungeon by finding a Nightmare sigil and then using it to activate the Nightmare version of that dungeon space.
Everything's a little darker, everything's more difficult. It's going to add a little bit of a twist of flavor on your particular dungeon.
There's some targeted activities in Diablo 4 that suit what you're feeling in the mood for.
The Forces of Hell are starting to have more influence in certain parts of Sanctuary in the vast interconnected overworld of the experience.
God, look at that
As the players are
disgustingness.
going into Helltide areas, they're going to find even more powerful monsters. And by killing them, they'll be able to gain these special shards they can take to go and use to purchase these big rewards that are available at these caches that are found littered throughout Helltide areas.
The sky darkens and the rivers run red, meteors fall from the sky, and
Terror
the monsters
zones?
get harder. We really want to create new experiences for the players. There's one I really like called Whispers of the Dead, which you get from the Tree of Whispers. The Tree of Whispers is grim and a little gruesome, but it's also something mystically haunting and kind of beautiful.
The tree has a little bit of a grudge against our players, and it would like for them to go serve its needs. So you're going to go serve these bounties, gather different rewards, different items, and bring them back to the tree in hopes that it can exchange you something really meaningful.
Maybe you're gonna go to the Fractured Peaks and take out some werewolves that are rampaging in a town. They're contained activities that you can do alone or in a group. We really wanted to create variety for people to be able to spend time where they wanted to in the world. It's very cool the way it's been put together, and I can't wait for people to see it, to be honest.
Fields of Hatred.
In Diablo 4, we have a focus on the world of Sanctuary. And there are parts of that world that we call the Fields of Hatred, where Lilith's presence in Sanctuary has begun to seep through and manifest these poisonous areas throughout the world. When players go to these regions, they get to engage in player versus player conflict.
These offer opportunities for the player to collect shards. But there is a little bit of a catch. In order to get these shards back to town, you will need to purify them. Other players will definitely know that you're attempting to purify your shards, so you'd better be prepared to fight if you're going to be playing any PvP, and be prepared that you might lose some stuff in the meantime.
Once they've got the purified shards, they can take these, go back to nearby towns to sell them, and then use that to buy a whole bunch of like interesting cosmetic items and rewards.
It's a place for people who really love PvP and want to still get loot and still increase their character's power. If that's the way they want to play, they can.
Launch is just the beginning. One of the things we're really focused on is creating a living, breathing set of updates for players to engage with after the game has gone live.
It's really just going to be a way to keep coming back and experiencing more Diablo 4 in fresh ways.
We're really eager to hear all of your experiences and just enjoy the entire story with you all.
Play the free beta. Why does it say that? Okay, that's kind of interesting. Okay, let's
Activities that provide.
let's go back to
Whether you're a fan of
here.
dungeons, PvP, or max level. Skill tree and expand out into
Are grounded on skills themselves and the fantasies associated with those skills.
Let's go back to
Paragon
here.
boards.
Okay, the Paragon board. Okay, this is really interesting. I'm seeing we've kind of gotten a glimpse of this so far in the past. Looks like we got, you know, some boost to stats, which is, you know, similar. You know, there's some similarities there with, you know, Diablo 3, right? With the Paragon where you just check it, right? But obviously it's a lot different because there's a tree that leads to other more impactful skills. See, I'm looking here on the left. Okay, I'm seeing Paragon points. I wonder how many you get. Do we know which level, I guess? Is it level 50? Is when you start to have Paragon points? Is that what it is? I believe. Okay. So we're seeing different... Are these your total stats here? Or are these the stats from Paragon? Probably total stats. They're probably showing you your total stats. And here we can see he's putting some into intelligence, you know, getting a little bit more there.
We're allowed to have a lot more depth,
Okay.
a lot more customization, many more op skills.
Hold on, what was
Paragon
that?
Wars place where we're allowed to have a lot more depth
Ah!
themselves and the fantasies associated with those skills. Paragon Wars place where we're allowed to have a lot more depth, a lot more customization, many more options as you go.
You can rotate the board, so you can choose a different path if you're like, I want to do more strength-based things, right?
So I really like that you have the option to change it around, right? Like if I'm a druid and I want to have a little more of intelligence because I'm using some elemental, but then I want more of strength because I have some shape-shifting, maybe that makes sense.
These particular
Maybe more
booms or
intelligence.
glyphs, you can chart your path through it, and they're really a way for you to keep
Ooh, did you see that? That was like 57. So there's some like
your
bigger
character,
ones.
making it uniquely yours.
Similar to the Paragon boards is
You can chart your path through it. These things, right? I want these.
Options as you go
You can rotate the board.
themselves and the fantasies associated with those skills. Paragon Wars place where we're allowed to have a lot more
Okay, I got it. Legendary node. You deal 5% increased damage for each nearby enemy that is crowd controlled. There's 25. So some of these things cost a lot. And you can see. So we get a little glimpse. You see that that's a good chunk of gold. I don't know how much that is in the end game. If is it going to be like D4 where we just have billions and trillions of gold. I can see here that the person has at this point 4 million gold. So 50,000. Okay, so maybe this is really where we're starting to see where they said it can be really expensive to respec. Still have a little bit of mixed feelings about it. I don't know. I'm trying to understand why it's an issue. Maybe because in D3 you could just freely change whenever you wanted, and they want to kind of make our decisions feel more impactful, kind of push us in that direction. I can kind of see that. I can see why some people may not like that, and I can see why others may. Kind of in the middle. I don't know. What do y'all think about that? I'm curious to see. Okay, so we got that.
Glyphs, uniquely yours.
And then here we have the aspects, right? These are really important because, so the itemization is something we've talked about in a previous video. It was kind of one of my bigger concerns, and I think that's something that we should be looking at very closely. It's not going to be like D2's itemization, which I feel D2 has a lot of positives regarding its itemization. It's definitely more in the direction of Diablo 3's, but also very different, it seems, because there was way too much of an emphasis on things like sets, and I think some people look and say, oh, well, we're just all going to be stuck with legendaries and whatnot. First of all, there's different tiers of legendary. There's legendaries, there's uniques, right? There's sacred, ancestral, which we still don't know a lot about. Plus the aspects really is, so you find a good, let's say you find a good item, you find a good rare, and it's got good stats, but it doesn't have a power that you want, right? And remember also that you can find legendaries in different slots. So I can find a power like this, like Aspect of the Dire Whirlwind. I can find it on a pair of gloves. I can find it on a chest. Like each legendary power can be found on multiple spots, and that actually matters because from what I understand, when I remember, I think I was listening to Rax's video. He's another big content creator on here. Shout out to him. When I was listening to his video, what he was explaining is that there are certain item slots that have just naturally better stats. So you're gonna, if you're gonna be looking at like min-maxing, you're gonna be wanting those to be, you're gonna be wanting to find better items for those, and then you can apply these aspects to them and make them more powerful. So really, I feel like it's more of like a, yeah, sure, it's going to look like D3 and that we're all going to be wearing legendaries eventually, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be done progressing. It definitely doesn't. And I believe they said at a certain point when they were calling them mythics, maybe that was what the ancestrals are now, that you can only use one of those. So those are probably going to be like especially powerful. So you will have to make decisions about, oh, do I want to use this? Do I want to use that? Also, when you use the Codex of Power, the aspects are going to be just the bare minimum. So if there's a range, so let's say it says Whirlwind's critical strike chance is increased by 5%. For each second, it is channeled up to 20%. So maybe when you find this, like if you found this power on an item, maybe there'll be a range here. Maybe it'll say 5 to 10 and then 20 to 30. Well, when you have it as an aspect, it's going to be the minimum. So it means that even if I get the aspect, that I'm still going to be hunting for a good item with this power with higher rolls. So I really like that because I feel like it gives us, so it gives us access to, so I think this is a good balance, and hear me out. It gives us access to an ability that allows us to play a build in a certain way. So it allows us to play, so it allows us more access than, let's say, Diablo 2, because sometimes in Diablo 2, you really have to find a specific item and there was no other way around it. And the same thing in D3. But in D3, you can also, extract powers and put them in the cube, and then you could use them that way without having to wear them. This is kind of the replacement. But what I like about this is that there are other ways to get it. You can target aspects because they'll be in a dungeon. So you don't just have to find it. So I like that. But you're still going to be seeking out that item. It's going to be on, let's say you want it on a glove, it's going to have the higher rolls. So I really like that about the itemization from what we know so far.
Similar to the Paragon boards is the Codex of Power. It's an in-game system that holds the aspects related to the character. You are able to complete a dungeon and they will have a chance to drop an aspect that you can pick up.
And what this allows players to do is take items they're finding in the world and make them more powerful, turn them into legendary items.
It's really special to discover what kind of playstyle really means the most to you.
I think I can agree with that quite a bit. I think, like I have some ideas since I played all 5 classes, what I'm going to start with, but even then, you just don't know what you're going to end up liking to play. And I think that discovery is going to be a big part of, I think that's going to be a huge time sink in this game. It's going to really keep us going for a while as just figuring out what to do. And as you know, this being a live service game, they add more content, seasonal content where they add new things, maybe new items, maybe new aspects, new powers, and that's gonna change and shake things up quite a bit. So I see a lot of potential here. It's very exciting. So for me, I think the most important piece when I tried the beta was really, how did it feel? Did I get that same feeling like when I play, a Diablo game, which I've enjoyed Diablo ARPGs more than others. I've played many of them. Did I get that same feeling? And is it fun? Is it fun to play? Right. So like Diablo 3 was pretty fun to play, I'd say, especially, after Reaper's Souls when they fixed it, Diablo 2 can also be fun, but it's definitely not as enjoyable. Really, D2, the captivation is the loot chase, the itemization, right? The prospect of getting that GG drop, right, is really what keeps you going. If you can find something fun to play to, then that's even better. But I think with D4 we have an opportunity here to have both, to really have both, to have that really fun and enjoyable play style that D3 had, while also giving us that chase, that loot chase. And I think that's really important. So I'm seeing it's coming together. It's coming together. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling good about it. So, okay, Nightmare Dungeons kind of seems like a replacement for Rifts, but there seems to be a lot more variety, and it seems like you have a bit more control over what you do. So you can, for example, find a sigil, and then you can go to a specific dungeon that you want and increase it and make it a Nightmare Dungeon. So I do like that, and I think that's important, because if you're targeting a dungeon because it has an aspect that you want, or that, for example, skeletons are more likely to drop, a certain type of item like scythes or something, you're going to go to a dungeon that has that. So there's a little bit of targeted farming there, and I really like that. I really do. It gives us more control over the RNG, so to speak, as opposed to, simply just hoping to get lucky, right? And then that with, gambling and whatnot. So
Part of Sanctuary is fulfilling and satisfying. Dungeons in particular are really close to my heart. Nightmare Dungeons are going to give the players the opportunity to experience a dungeon that they might have already experienced in their past playthroughs. They'll enter the dungeon with a found sigil that alters the playstyle and the intensity of the dungeon.
They're more difficult, and they have additional objectives, and then they also have affixes, which
I really like the visual. I hope to see like more of those visual differences, and I think that the portal, the hell portals they were talking about, that sounds really cool.
One of my favorite affixes that you can find in Nightmare Dungeons is actually called Hellgate. Occasionally, these portals will open up throughout the area that will just pour out different monsters that aren't native to that region for you to
That's
also
really
deal
cool,
with while you're trying
honestly.
to do everything else inside the dungeon. There's over 120 dungeons to play through and find in Diablo 4, and any one of them can become a Nightmare Dungeon by finding a Nightmare Sigil and then using it to activate the Nightmare version of that dungeon space.
Everything's a little darker, everything's more difficult. It's going to add a little bit of a twist of flavor on your particular dungeon.
That's so cool. I mean, that's way better than Rifts, because now you can, if I want to do a certain dungeon over and over again for whatever reason, I just like it, then I can do that. I found a really good sigil. Let's go do this dungeon. I want to do this one, and you could jump on with your friends if you want. You could do it single player if you want. You don't have to deal with anyone. So I think those are going to be some of the better types of content for like solo playing, if you're really into that. Look, I don't know. Look, ladies and gents, I don't know how else to put this, so I'm just going to say it. I'm very excited. I'm looking for it. I'm very excited, and I'm glad it's coming out when it's coming out, like the summertime. I'll definitely have a bit more time to play. I'm really looking forward to this. I'm a little annoyed I have to wait 2 more months, but I got plenty I'm doing right now, so it's okay. I'm not upset about it. It's just like, I just want to play it now. I had a lot of fun playing the beta. I really did. I wish I could have played it more, but I know it's coming soon, and I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say very cautiously optimistic, but no, sorry, very cautiously, but emphasis on the optimistic I am. I think that there are still some things that I hope that they fix and work out, but I think a lot of those things that I had, the concerns, the itemization, I'm starting to come together a bit. I'm starting to see a little bit more. We'll see, though. I still have to see more of the end game and the rest of the campaign. I love the art style, the way it looks, the way it feels. It's fun to play. And I think a lot of the other issues can be addressed very easily. I don't think it really matters for the long-term health of the game. Like some of those nitpick things like the font and whatnot, or, oh, the druid sucks. Like, you know what? I leveled the druid more than any of the classes. I played it the most. Who cares? It was still fun. I'm probably going to start with the druid, honestly. Like, I really liked it. So I don't think those things matter that much. I don't think it's going to matter. I think whatever your play style, whatever character you have a feel for, and if you're not sure, then you know what? Just wait. Don't buy the game on release. You don't have to. You'll be able to watch people like me, and many others just play it. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I really am. I'm pleasantly I'm pleasantly happy to say that when I first saw the game announced in BlizzCon 2019, and my son and I were there, and I got to play it, and I got that feel. I was very hyped at that time. I was very hyped. I was very excited, and I'm really glad to see it coming together finally, and it's going to be in our hands. And honestly, this is about the time I predicted it to be done. I thought it would be 2023, roughly, especially after 2020. I was like, yeah, probably 2023, 2024, and so I'm happy. I'm excited about it. So, all right, well, I think they're going to be doing a stream sometime soon. I think they're going to be talking more about stuff, as we get a little bit closer to release. So I'll cover more of that when it comes. Otherwise, sound off in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. What are some, how are you feeling right now? Do you feel like this video really pushed you in a direction you're not sure, or I just want to hear other people's thoughts? But those are mine. Look, those are mine, and like I said, I'm looking forward to it. All right, you have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.